Hey guys, it's Madison Estes. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the new horror film, A Quiet Place, Day One. For those of you that don't know, A Quiet Place is a horror series about these monsters that invade Earth. They can't see, but they have very sensitive hearing, so anytime you make any kind of sound, it brings the monsters to you. I want to start off by saying that 2024 has been kind of a slow year for horror films. Other than The First Omen and Immaculate, there really hasn't been anything that I've thought was even decent. And even those films were just kind of okay. But let me tell you, A Quiet Place, Day One, is more of the same. Yeah, that's right. It's not great. First things first, I will get into the plot. The plot revolves around a young woman named Samira. She has cancer, she's in hospice, and she's going to Manhattan because she wants to eat at this pizza parlor. And she kind of gets tricked into going there by the nurse who's like, we're going to go see a show and eat some pizza. And the show is like this kind of weird puppet show that ends up being some kind of metaphor for life and death because the balloon pops and then the girl leaves and she starts crying and it all just felt very pretentious. But anyways, I think it was supposed to be some deep symbolic thing, but I just kind of didn't really feel it. But anyway, so the movie takes its time getting started, and while she's in Manhattan, aliens attack Earth. So while most people are busy trying to evacuate the city and find their family and friends, Samira wants to find a pizza place. I'm not joking. That's literally the plot of the novel, is that she wants to go to a pizza place. Now, there are some symbolic emotional reasons why. She has some memories tied to some family members there. So it's not just like, it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. It's not like Harold and Kumar go to White Castle during the apocalypse, although it kind of felt a little bit like that sometimes. I'm just like, really? She's really going to do all this for some pizza? Okay, that is dedication. I have to admire that a little bit. This brings me to my first big problem with this movie, which is that Samira is a very flat character. Other than the fact that she has a cat, she has cancer, and she has some fond memories of her dad in a pizza place, we really don't learn that much about her throughout the entire film. We also don't learn that much about the second lead character, Eric, other than the fact that he is a lawyer and his parents live in Britain. That's about it. Throughout the whole movie, that's pretty much the only things that we learn about either of these characters. Honestly, I think the cat gets more development than them. Joseph Quinn's character Eric literally pops into the story because the subways are flooded and we see him rise out of the water and start gasping, and then almost get killed by one of the monsters because of how loud he's gasping for air. And it just felt really random. It felt like we were missing several scenes in this movie, because usually in a film like this you would introduce the character before the apocalypse starts so we can get a glimpse of who they are pre-apocalypse. I expected to see Joseph Quinn on his phone being like, hello, Mummy and Daddy, I'm on the subway. Oh no, the subway is flooding with water. Let me call you back. I'm sorry for like the world's worst British accent. No, but really, this would have been a great opportunity to see who he's talking to on the phone. Is it his parents? Is it a girlfriend? Give us some background on this character. And then, we could have that great dramatic moment that I always love in movies whenever they see something and they have to, like, drop the phone because they're so shocked. So, he could have seen either, like, the water flooding or like a pipe burst, because I'm still curious how the subway's flooded. So I don't know if it's like the monsters bursted a pipe, or I don't know what happened. I don't know what could cause an entire subway to flood, but regardless, I also wanted to see that. That would have been a great action scene. But, to see Joseph Quinn running from the water, I think would have been a really great scene. And I don't know why they just had him pop up out of nowhere instead of filming all of that, because, it just feels like a missed opportunity. There's also another scene with this character that drives me a little crazy, where he climbs up a scaffold to try to save a cat. I don't know if you guys have ever met a cat, but cats don't usually need you to climb up something to save them. Yes, every now and then you hear a story about someone calling a firefighter to rescue a cat from the top of a tree, but usually they're quite capable of getting down by themselves. And the idea that he's willing to risk his life to climb up this scaffold and save the cat and bring it down, really stupid. And there was a part of me that was wishing that they would allude to how stupid this was by like having him reach for the cat and then having the cat like jump away and then easily hop down and get down on the ground. I think that would have been really funny. That would have been a great moment, but unfortunately that did not happen, and it was just kind of played straight instead of played for humor. In addition to the fact that both of the main characters were underdeveloped, I also found it difficult to believe that Eric would follow Samira because he has no real good reason to. If they'd made him a doctor or some other medical student, I could understand why he would follow around a terminal patient on her mission to do the last thing that she wants to do before she dies. I could maybe buy that, but I didn't understand why a lawyer would do it. And maybe if they had developed his character more, I might have been able to believe it. But as it was, it kind of seemed like he was following her because he didn't know what else to do. But it was kind of ridiculous because she told him where to go and where the rest of the survivors were. And it wasn't like she saved his life either. Like if she had saved his life, then I would be like, well, maybe that's why he's following her, because he's scared and she saved him. But she didn't. It's just that he saw her. She's literally the first person that he saw after he got out of the subway. And he was like, I'll stalk this person for some reason. It's never really explained. It's just like he's a duck that saw his mommy. It just didn't make a lot of sense, and the actors didn't have enough chemistry for me to believe that he's really following her for whatever reason it was that he was supposed to be following her. And since the whole film is basically about these two characters, the fact that the actors don't really have that chemistry required to sell this bond is kind of a big problem. The last thing I want to mention before I get into the things that I liked about this film, because there were things that I liked even though it was kind of mediocre overall. The thing that I want to talk about is the fact that this doesn't really feel like a horror film for most of the movie. It feels more like a disaster film, along the lines of Armageddon, Deep Impact, The Core, things like that. It doesn't really have a lot of horror moments in it. And I'm trying to think of why that is, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's the fact that there was so much light in this film. They're out in the open most of the time, and also because the buildings are so big, the monsters look quite small. There's also just not that many moments where I really felt like somebody was about to get ripped into, which also makes a big difference, I think. I think that the opening sequence was really the best part of this film and the most horrifying. It reminded me a little bit of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead in terms of just how much is going on and how your attention is constantly shifting from one situation to another. I actually think the opening sequence was really well done, and it got me very hyped for the film. And then there was a couple of parts after that that also had a lot of tension. I do think that, a few of the night scenes were very creepy and were very horror-esque, but I think that probably 2/3 of the film felt more like a disaster film than anything else. There's also one scene where a character takes off to go and get something for the other character, and I felt quite certain that character was going to return because otherwise, how would the other character get out of their situation? So there's no tension in that scene, and I think that could have been fixed by having more characters in the movie. That way, this person's on a mission. Well, obviously, they're going to complete that mission because the movie doesn't work if they don't. But, which works in a disaster movie, but it doesn't work in a horror film. So that's one more reason why I felt like there were parts of this that just didn't have me on the edge of my seat feeling, because I knew that the character was probably going to be fine. So as for the things that I liked, I did really like the special effects, even though I just complained that we did get too much light so we saw the monsters. I do think that the monsters looked cool. I think they looked cool though, not scary. That's why it feels more like Godzilla disaster film than, a horror film. I think the acting was okay. I don't think there's anything that came across as cheesy or bad. I think that most of my problems with the characters being underdeveloped comes from the script more than anything else. I liked the cat. I think that the cat was the best character in the film. The opening sequence was fantastic. I think I already mentioned that, but that was truly one of the best opening sequences that I've seen in a long time. I'm really struggling to think of more things that I liked about this film. There really were some moments that had me on the edge of my seat. Like I said, most of those moments I felt more like this was like disaster film, action film kind of thing. I didn't feel that sense of dread that I feel in a good horror film. It was more like excitement. So that's sort of why, I'm saying that this doesn't feel that much like a horror film. Yeah, I'm really struggling here. Oh, you know what? I really liked the relationship between Alex Wolff's character, I think his name was Ruben, between him and Samira. And I wish that that dynamic had been explored more, because I honestly feel like that was probably the most interesting part of the story in terms of character development. That was the time when these characters felt real, and it was really well developed, and I wish that it had been developed more and that they'd had more screen time together, because that part was really well done. The last thing I liked was the ending. Even though I felt like it would have been a lot more powerful if I had connected with the characters more and enjoyed other parts of this film more, I still liked it. I thought it was a decent ending, and considering how many horror films leave me, shaking my fist and feeling grumpy, the fact that this one ended in a way that was really satisfying, that's what makes me feel like I can still recommend this film, even though I want to caution you to, manage your expectations a little bit. Yeah, because this isn't as good as the first two films in this series. If you've seen those films, you probably have high expectations. Lower those a little bit. If you haven't seen the first two, then you might be going into this film with the right amount of expectations. Overall, I felt satisfied. I turned to the person that I watched this with, and we both looked at each other, and we were like, yeah, that felt mediocre. And we agreed on the reasons why. We both agreed the characters were flat. So that is why I feel rather confident in making that assertion. And like I said, I think most of the other problems I had with this film stemmed from that. So even though this film had some serious flaws, I still felt like it was pretty entertaining, and I definitely think it's worth watching at least once. I give A Quiet Place Day 1 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this movie, so let me know in the comment section below if you would rate it higher or lower. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe. On this channel, I post reviews, writing advice, horror commentary, and vlogs. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later.